Hello and welcome back to the Single Malt Review. We've got something just a little bit unusual for you today. Dave has gone into the very depths of his archive and found something of a curiosity, a bit of a blast from the past. What is it, Dave?
That's right. It's fair to say that 2011 was not a great year in the Asia-Pacific region. In February, our City of Christchurch in New Zealand was heavily damaged by a strong earthquake. Then the next month, in March 2011, Japan was hit by some truly staggering earthquakes and tsunami. The devastation and loss of life was phenomenal. In response to that, the worldwide humanitarian effort, some of Scotland's independent distillers came together as a kind of a charity fundraiser to produce the Spirit of Unity. Play on words aside, we have 7 distillers representing the 6 whisky regions, all contributed to the cask and created a truly unique blend. What we have here is a 11-year-old Arran, a 10-year-old Ben Riach, 9-year-old Blainock, 8-year-old Glendronach, 5-year-old Kilhoman, 7-year-old Kilkerran, and 11-year-old Springbank, all combined into this one whisky, bottled at 46%, but otherwise not filtered, not coloured. All the profits and proceeds went to the Japan tsunami disaster relief effort. 2,000 bottles produced. I was able to secure one. I'm glad to help out the cause.
It's probably one of the very few left in circulation, aside from people who've been bloody collecting it. There's probably a few unopened ones crusting away in people's cabinets, but never mind. I like this because you read the back of who made it, and it's almost a who's who of independently owned distilleries. There's a few omissions, but not a great many.
There's one whisky from every region except Campbellton, who is represented by 2 distillers.
Both owned by Springbank.
The nose is light, quite a sweet, with a bit of a peaty foundation as well. All the whiskies are quite young, averages out to roughly 6 or 7 years old. The oldest whiskies in here being 11, the youngest merely 5.
No, more or less, and it's very much a sum of its parts. The 2 real big flags in here, I think there's 3. There's quite a deep sherried sweetness, which is unmistakably Glendronach. There's a really, really strong peated element, which will be the Kilhoman, and there's, just on the end, a really distinctive funk, which will be from the 2 Campbellton distilleries, Springbank and Kilkerran.
I liken Campbellton to a fresh, lush grassiness. Freshly mown lawn, perhaps, or field of green grass.
No, I don't think that's too far off. For me, it would be if you then subsequently maybe fermented that grass for a little while, made it go a little bit interesting, and then there's Campbellton to a T. Any fresh grassiness is probably coming from Blainock, one of the very, very now few surviving lowland distilleries still in production, and they produce a very light but very expressively grassy straw style of whisky. So, that's the nose.
The very first impression is a sharp and almost effervescent peatiness, which would be the Kilhoman. Underneath that, there are layers of sherry, there are herbs, there are flowers, a little bit of honey, a little bit of brine.
It was always going to happen. You put a little bit of Kilhoman in, young Kilhoman, with any other whisky, and it's going to make itself known. There's no putting Kilhoman in the corner. It's just one of those whiskies that always is going to make itself known. It has a very, very loud, clear voice as to what it is, and so the palate of this, it's really a fairly definitively peated whisky, even though Kilhoman is really probably the only directly peated whisky that goes in. Springbank and Kilkerran have a quotient of peat, but the rest generally unpeated whiskies, although they could have thrown a few curveballs because Glendronach and Benriach have certainly been known to throw out peated whiskies on occasion when they feel like it. So who really knows without knowing exactly what went in. But yes, it could go either way on the nose, but that palate, definitively peated. Which makes the presence of the other distilleries just slightly challenging.
Yes, it's
to
always
really
struck me with this
pick
one.
out.
The peat just comes to the forefront and almost overwhelms. I've added a bit of water, and that's enlivened lots of the fruity or especially waxy flavours. All the apple peel, beeswax.
Before I taste it, I'll just point out that that's really brought the Springbank. It's really brought the Campbellton out, putting that water in. It's got a real distinct funkiness in there now.
For me, it's emphasised the Speyside more.
So you're getting a few lighter fruits out of the
Yes,
aroma.
there's apple peel, there's some candied orange peel.
Oh no, there we are. No, apple peel. Quite right. As you'd expect, it's a really rather complicated whiskey. Given what's gone in, it's sort of the blended malt, either from hell if you're trying to write tasting notes, or from heaven if you just want something that's will probably never ever happen again, because these there's sort of one thing that ties all these distilleries together, in that secondarily to being independent, they don't blend their whiskey. They don't go into blends. They don't go into blended malts. They're quite insular in that they'll blend them in-house, but they're single malts first and foremost. So to see them combined in the bottle is really, really quite special. Never the twain shall meet otherwise.
Even though I'm loath to sound like corporate middle management, there's a real synergy to this whiskey. You can taste every component whiskey in here individually, but the combination also has a unique flavour of its own.
The water definitely helps. It helps space them apart, tease them away a little, so that you can first get past the Killoman, which is sort of stands in front. You can get through that, and then the other whiskies are there to be discovered. And it's a fairly challenging exercise for even a fairly experienced palates like ours to really bring them all apart, but it can be done. And in doing so, it's actually a fairly fascinating whiskey to try. It's not often that in a blended malt you get such a rigorous description of exactly what's gone in, as this one, this sort of shopping list that this one gives you on the back of the bottle.
It provides individual cask numbers for those who are particularly keen. You can tell the age, you can tell where it's from, everything except the quantity of each for ratios or proportions.
No, I really, really rather like this. I think I remember tasting this when it came out, and I think I only tasted it very, very fleetingly. It was just a sample passed to me, and I thought it was too peated. Peated such that it was sacrificing everything else that was in it, and I thought it was a bit of a waste. But I don't think I tasted it properly. I don't think I put enough water in, because tasting it a second time now, many years hence, it's a far more interesting whiskey than I remember. And were I to give it a score, I would easily give this an 8 out of 10, because even forgetting its particularly unique provenance, which now stands quite a long way behind us. Not that they're necessarily done with the earthquake in Japan. They're still dealing with things, particularly on the nuclear reactor side of things. There is still work to be done, but no, easily an 8 out of 10 for me. It's a very, very interesting thing, and it's a pleasant whiskey besides.
And for me, I have to evaluate this in two different respects. As a whiskey that I am drinking and enjoying, I'd rate it a 7.5 out of 10. The peat is a little strong for me to rate it higher. It's a little too overwhelmed. It's a very young whiskey. All the whiskies in here are quite young, average overall speaking. So it's heavily peated, and that slightly dampens the other flavours. But as a symbol, as a unique expression, what it means, the rationale behind its existence, and what it accomplished as a charitable venture, it is unique. It's unrivaled, really. And it's an easy 10 out of 10 in that respect. As a symbol, what it represents and what it accomplished.
So what are we going with?
I think it easily would Go with your 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10, rightio. I think that's fairly strong scores for a, what do we think? 7-year-old average?
Roughly,
Whisky?
yes.
Yeah. No, pretty astounding stuff. I think some thought went in here, tasting this a second time. Anyway, I can almost promise you can't buy one of these, and if one shows up at auction, you probably shouldn't, because it will be well within the collector's bracket by this point, and probably being sold for some sort of hilarious amount of money, which far exceeds its, albeit very high quality, as a whisky. You'll be, if you want to spend your money, you probably look for any present earthquakes or other natural disasters and give them a donation if you want to buy whiskey in the spirit that you might have bought this one.
Yes, yeah, selling this at auction, I think, would defeat the, no pun intended, spirit of the thing.
It'd almost seem a little bit mean, really.
Every penny from this whiskey, every profit was made, went to the Disaster Relief Fund, and that was a worthy cause for an eminently worthy whiskey.
But anyway, this has been the Single Malt Review. Again, if there's something you'd like us to try, if there's something you're thinking of buying and you'd like us to try for you, it's just possible we have a bottle open rattling around, because we do have the odd thing in the cupboard. We'll do our very best to have a look. Just let us know in the comments, and we will see what we can do. Until then, this has been the Single Malt Review. Thank you very much for tuning in, and sludge it. Until next time. We've got just a bit of a blast of the past for you. Oh, no.
Blast of the past.
Blast of the past. We've got something just slightly interesting for you today. Not that we don't have interesting for you. Fucking hell, man, I'm on fire. I'm on fire.